Ms. Ofei has been working with the Dutch Embassy in Accra for many years, have been extremely instrumental in helping Dutch companies that want to do business through trade missions, both outgoing trade missions to Ghana and incoming trade delegations from Ghana to the Netherlands. Welcome, Mrs. Ofei.
Thank you very much. As the Netherlands Embassy in Ghana is, we are moving from aid to trade. So we are moving away from the traditional relationship with Ghana, which was aid, and now we're focusing more on developing a trade relationship between Ghana and the Netherlands. So all our programs, all our efforts are tuned or direct focus in that direction. So the embassy in Ghana is located in Accra, the capital, and we are responsible for also Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Togo. So I will speak a little bit more on that as I go on. The focus areas of the embassy is WASH, that is water, sanitation, and hygiene, food security, and also private sector development. We have an agricultural attaché responsible for Ghana, for Nigeria, and also for Ivory Coast. We have policy officers that give technical advice on food security and on WASH. So that doesn't mean that because these are focus areas, WASH and food security are focus areas, we do not support businesses that are outside of these sectors. We do provide that support for all businesses in all sectors, but then our core focus areas, or the areas that we have technical policy officers available in the office, and then where the Dutch funds are channeled, is in these sectors that I've mentioned. So if you're interested in doing business in Ghana in these fields, we'll be able to readily provide you technical support at the embassy in these sectors. And all other sectors, we are ready to point you in the right direction and give you the initial support and then point you in the right direction. We also have an economic team at the embassy, and we are your first point of contact. First Secretary, Economic Affairs. So at the end of my presentation, we'll put up our contact details, so feel free to contact us at any time and we will be able to provide you with the needed support. What we do as an economic section, I mentioned earlier that we are your first point of contact. We also assist you with local network. So if you're coming into Ghana, definitely you need a starting point. You need an area where you need contacts. So we assist you with the local network, the local contacts, so you can take off. We also provide you with startup advice. If you're investing in Ghana, we already provide you with guide you through the process, let you know what documentation you need, what processes you have to go through, what agencies you have to engage to be able to start up in Ghana. So we direct you through that process. After settling in Ghana as well, we just don't let go of you. We make sure that we continue to give you the needed support as you settle in Ghana. We have one of the largest bilateral chambers in Ghana, that is the Ghana Netherlands Business and Cultural Council, GNBCC. I'm sure they're here as well. Tjalling will give you more information. He's the general manager of GNBCC. He'll give you more information on what exactly GNBCC does and how they can support you when you are in Ghana. So I would advise that when you're doing business in Ghana, or you intend to invest in Ghana, you should immediately join GNBCC so that they can give you that support whilst you work in Ghana. We also advise on Dutch government subsidies, because the Dutch government has various subsidies and how they support Dutch businesses who are interested in going abroad, expanding their the tentacles and going abroad. and they provide this support through RVO. So there are various Dutch government subsidies that are available through RVO. And my RVO colleagues are also here as well. So that's Anne-Catherine and Corinne. So I'm sure they'll also give you more insight into how RVO, that's the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, can give you support if you're looking abroad or looking specifically at Ghana. So there are various Dutch government subsidies that are available to you through RVO, and we hope that you take advantage from through that. If you contact us and you just tell us what you want to do and you let us know at which areas you're looking at or the project that you want to do in Ghana, we'll be able to give you advice as to which subsidies best fit what you want to do and how you'll be able to access those subsidies, and we'll point you in the right direction, give you a direct contact at RVO who will be able to assist and support you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ofei. And indeed, we have shared the contact details through the chat. Now it's time to hear from our sister organization in Ghana. They're called the GNBCC, which is the Ghana Netherlands Business and Cultural Council, and it's led by Mr. Tjalling Wiarda.
First of all, I give a small overview of the members we have. We have 120 members at this moment. And there are about, I think, at least 150 Dutch companies, but you always have to ask how to define a Dutch company. We've got big members, multinationals like Unilever, Philips, Vivo Energy, which is Shell, Ghana Guinness Breweries, which is 20% owned by Heineken, KLM, Flisco, Ghana Textiles. But we've got also big companies like Bunge Loders Ocloo, which is basically American, but they have a big company in Wormerveer, Cargill. So we've got a number of companies, a lot of them also in the port, like the company of Mr. Bas de Vaal, who's also present here. But also some new companies who've established this year, Mobilift, they're going to import DAF trucks. And a lot of agri companies. Most of the Dutch investors are in agri sector. COVID-19 also has an impact in Ghana on the supply chain. There's, for instance, we also see it with our members, certainly in the beginning, a reduction in the capacity in air freight. It's now somewhat improving. Last Sunday, KLM Cargo resumed flying to Amsterdam with cargo. They will start on Wednesday and on Sunday. But in the beginning, there was almost certainly when the lockdown came, there was also the air freight went down totally. Plus, there's a significant increase in the air freight costs. Sometimes even 200% increases of prices. The other effect what we see here is that there is a call for more local production because it's also logical. Other which have been hit members from ours is of course in the tourism sector. We've got a lot of number of travel agents who are a member of GNBC, and their turnover collapsed logically because the part of the measures, as explained by Gladys, was also closing the border. The border is still closed, and this is one of the cornerstones of the anti-COVID-19 policy of the Ghana government. So the expectation is that we don't know if the border will open soon, or there will be some changes in the policies at the end of this month. But if opening the borders is one of them, I hope, but I don't know. And also some other problems some of our members did have, like we have a big company called Koud IJs de Heus. They were building a factory, and there were a lot of Dutch people involved from an expert team for external from the Netherlands, and they all had to return back to the Netherlands. So that yeah, that's delayed. Of course, it creates delays. And it was, and on Sunday, the 19th of April, it was announced that the lockdown was over. So since the lockdown, all the non-essential business can open. That's why I'm here also sitting at the office.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Wiarda. I'm sorry we're running a little behind schedule. And next on the schedule is a presentation from Mr. Evans Asare, who is a senior associate of KPMG Ghana, who will share some insights of the economic outlook.
And good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you very much. So I would quickly take us through the economic situation here in Ghana. I guess you can see my screen now.
Absolutely.
So it's just good. So we will just follow a 3 or 4 section outline. Look at the structure of the economy. Look at the impact so far. Look at what we are projecting to be the recovery trajectory, and then some changes in import and export as outline that was given. So the structure of the Ghanaian economy is, just as you can see on the screen, we have agri, industry and services. The services sector is the largest contributor to GDP with 47%. We have industry with 34% and agri.
Mr. Asare, your sound is a little bit on and off. Can you please see if there's anything you can adjust to?
Okay, all right. Is it better now?
Not really.
Okay. Does it work now?
This is better. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, as I was saying, that the structure of the economy is into 3 main broad sectors: agri, industry, and then services. Services is growing currently at 7.6%. Industry is 6.4%, and then agri is 4.6%. Most of the subsectors are growing, especially if you look at the services sector, you see information technology growing at almost 46%. The sectors that are contracting are construction, water and sewage, and then forestry and logging. So these numbers are as at 2019. We see potential growth, especially in the services sector in this period. So going straight to what the impact of the virus has been on the economy, I think it's quite significant that we see on the screen government projecting a shortfall in revenue of almost 15.7 billion Ghana cedis in terms of revenue shortfall, and an expenditure of almost 2.8 billion additional expenditure, which was not budgeted for. At the end of this whole pandemic, we think that government is going to probably lose revenue and incur expenditure totaling almost 20 billion Ghana cedis, which is a very significant increase in government expenditure. In terms of GDP, we're projecting to grow this year at almost 6.8%. However, because of the pandemic, we are now projecting to grow between 0 to 1.5%, which is a significant decline in GDP growth. Overall budget deficit, which was projected to be about 5%, 4.5%, is now heading towards the double digits of almost 10% by the end of the year. So the impact of the virus is seen across the various macroeconomic indicators, as you can see on the screen. Debt to GDP ratio is projected to increase from 63% to almost 68.7% by the end of the year. That is quite a significant growth because, of course, we have gone to the IMF and the World Bank to borrow additional funds to plug in the budget deficit. In terms of credit to the private sector, we anticipate that the growth would decline from 18.3% from last year to almost 4.7% this year, which means that the banks are probably going to be a bit cautious lending to the private sector. In terms of the specific sectors that have been impacted by this pandemic, I mean, this is clearly across the globe. The tourism sector is definitely one of the sectors that has really been significantly impacted. Some, if not all, of the hotels are shut at the moment. They were recording very low occupancy rates, so there was no point keeping them open. We're estimating up to over $200 million in revenue within the whole tourism hospitality industry. Trade, we mentioned it earlier on that the borders are closed. There were a lot of restrictions on movement of goods and persons, so it is currently being eased gradually. Specifically, if you look at imports, the government is projecting a shortfall in revenue. In fact, the first quarter of this year, there was a shortfall of over 40% in revenues from customs alone, which is quite significant hit on government finances. The health sector has been significantly impacted. Nobody prepared for this pandemic, and so we have the health sector really struggling to cope with this whole virus. The government announced recently the construction of some hospitals to be able to cope with the situation as it stands now. The oil and gas sector, which is one of the major contributors to government revenue, has taken a hit. I mean, from a benchmark revenue of almost $60 per barrel, the prices are now below $25 per barrel. And so government revenue from the oil sector is being significantly impacted, almost $6 billion loss in revenue from the oil sector alone. Education schools are shut, so that's also another area of impact. And in agri, because of disruption to supply chain issues. This slide summarizes our key subsectors. So you can see on the right, extreme right, mining, quarrying, crops, and then trade. Those are the major contributors to our GDP, and they are all showing a downward trend because of the pandemic. To the other side, which is the top left corner, you see the two critical subsectors, which are the information technology and then oil. Those were the high growth subsectors. Until recently, that oil has seen a sharp, drop in prices. So we anticipate that growth there is going to decline. However, the positive from this COVID is that telecommunication companies are really making a lot of money out of this because there's a move from physical office space to virtual. And so they are buying a lot of data at this stage to be able to cope with the virtual work. And so we see that information technology is going to experience quite a significant growth this year. Financial services sector, which may be of interest, you can see at the bottom there is negative, and it's not surprising because it's gone through some restructuring over the last couple of years because there was a whole cleanup in the sector, and so it has recorded some negative growth. And so you can see that at the bottom, the financial insurance activities are recording negative growth. We anticipate that in the coming years, it would also pick up slowly and then also record some positive growth. In terms of government interventions, there have been a lot of intervention from the government from fiscal and from monetary perspectives. So government, the aim is to plug in this whole 20 billion gap that has been caused by the pandemic in terms of revenue shortfall and additional expenditure. So these fiscal measures include both internal and external sources. From the external sources, you can see the government is speaking with the IMF to the World Bank in order to obtain almost $1.4 billion to plug in the hole. From internal sources, government is trying to get additional revenues from by assessing funds from the Heritage Fund, which is a fund that we set aside from our oil revenues for future generation, but government wants to assess it at this stage to see how they can utilize some of the funds to plug in the hole. Government also wants to lower the cap on Ghana Stabilization Fund to be able to secure additional $220 million to fund the COVID alleviation program, which I think Gladys mentioned earlier, that is being used to fund some businesses. From the monetary perspective, the Bank of Ghana has also been very active to help with this whole situation. Some of it including reducing interest rates. They've allowed the banks to reduce their primary reserve to be able to ensure they have some liquidity to support lending. the Bank of Ghana has suspended payment of dividends for some of the financial institutions, specifically for 2019 and for 2020. BOG is also trying to help government with about 10 billion financing, and this is all to help government to plug the hole that has been caused by this whole pandemic. And then the BOG is also trying to get banks to syndicate almost 3 billion Ghana cedis to help in lending. So this will be part of some kind of a counterpart funding to the COVID alleviation program that the government is doing. So the COVID alleviation program is quite a very subsidized loan, soft loan to businesses. And then the banks will also come with some commercial lending as counterpart funding to help businesses to survive this whole pandemic. Just to quickly wrap up, there are a number of tax measures. I won't mention all of them, just a few of them to mention. Number one is granting of remission on taxes and penalties. So if businesses are able to pay their taxes by June, all penalties will be waived. Filing of taxes have been extended by additional 2 months. So it used to be by the end of April, but businesses have up to June to be able to file their taxes. And so these are all measures that have been put in place. Businesses that are helping the fight against the pandemic will get waiver on taxes for all the expenditure. They've been allowed to deduct this from their expenses for tax purposes. To wrap up, I mean, if we look at our recovery, we hope that it will be a U-shape. It is not going to be a very rapid recovery. We believe that it will take a bit of time for the economy to get back on its feet. Certain sectors we see that hold prospects. You can see on my screen at the right corner, those sectors that are surging. Telecommunications, technology, which is fintech. Then we have life sciences of pharmaceutical industries, e-learning. Those sectors are quite surging that we expect to be growing quite rapidly in the coming months. Finally, on some changes to import and export, two of them. Number one is in April 2019, government reduced some benchmark values for certain goods and services. And the idea was to encourage imports. But government lost revenue significantly because of the reduction in benchmark values. But recently, government has reversed some of the decisions, and some products have been taken off those reductions. So for instance, Portland cement, sugar, palm oil, cables, aluminium, pharmaceutical products have been taken off that. So the values have gone back to their original values earlier before 2019, April. Then finally, there are restrictions on cargo flights, and exporters are finding it difficult to get their goods across. So for instance, if you want a flight to go to, say, Belgium, and there's only one flight going to Amsterdam, then you need to arrange for additional, connection flight from Amsterdam to Belgium to get your goods there. So this has significantly impacted, especially vegetable exporters and fruit exporters in the country. Vessels are also reducing the number of stops. They probably would make 3 stops on their way, but because of the reduction in volumes, they are also making probably just 1 or 2 stops. And it is anticipated that if this thing does not reverse, they might probably just not make any journeys at all. So overall, I mean, the picture for the country is not a very pleasant one, but we believe that the number of measures that government is putting together is adequate and able to help the country go through this trajectory. Unfortunately, this year is an election year, and I mean, it comes with all the political risk associated with elections. And so we believe that the coming months and then early next year could be quite trying moment for the country, but we hope that there is still light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Well, if there's not any new questions here at the moment, I would like to thank all the speakers of today, Mr. Accra, Mr. Ofei, Mr. Asare, Mr. De Vaal, and Mr. Ocloo. Thank you very much for being with us. Of course, all the participants, thank you very much. When you do business with Ghana, you can always reach out to us, the embassy, the GNBCC, and definitely will help you to make your company happen there. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.